Liz Schuler, Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO. Welcome. Thanks for taking time out of what I know is an extremely busy night for you. So thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for hosting this. I was just going to say I'm so happy that you and Diana and Elise and so many of my good friends are on this evening spending time together, because I don't know about you, but I'm feeling extremely anxious, even though I'm feeling good at the same time. So I don't know how y'all are feeling.
My tummy's a mess. I'm going to be real honest. It is. I'm having 4-year flashbacks here, but now that you're here, I'm feeling much better.
Oh, okay.
To introduce you, these are just a few of our more than 70 labor, radio, and podcast shows across the country represented. We actually have a fairly heavy representation of some of our Southern labor podcasts. We just had some of you might know Charlie Fleming from the Georgia was on. So we've been having an interesting conversation about labor in the South. But let's get to 30,000-foot view from you. But I know you've also spent a lot of time on the ground, because that's where you like to be, wearing out that shoe leather. So, but let's give a big picture, and then we'll get down to the basics.
Sure, absolutely. And as we know, this election has been different than any other in the past, primarily because of the pandemic. But I think we have done an incredible job with Labor 2020, pivoting to the new tools, the creative tactics. I know in the DMV, even the work that's been done to assist other battleground states using our virtual dialers and the support that's come in from all over the country, I think has been one highlight, in my opinion, that, a silver lining to the pandemic, maybe, that people are helping each other, they're there for each other and supporting, especially those in the battleground states from other places that have resources. So, I'm sure you've talked about how it's been a record early vote.
Yep.
It's been the most diverse electorate in history, young people, women, people of color, and union members, right? I think out of the 100 or so million early votes, 3.5 million union members and householders have already voted.
Wow.
So I think that's a real highlight. And so what I see, and I've been doing virtual campaigning and on the ground, is this incredible energy, incredible resilience, and the enthusiasm that we would normally see, but just doing our tactics and our campaign efforts in new and creative ways. And so that's been really heartening.
We were just Gene Lance, who's out of Dallas, works with the state Fed there, was just talking about a whole raft of local candidates there. And I was curious. I'll be honest, I've kind of lost track. I knew last cycle we had a ton of labor candidates. How did we do this year, just in terms of fielding candidates? Because as you know, I mean, winning is great, but oftentimes it's just getting lots of people to run. Do you have a sense of where we are across the country on that?
Yes, I believe we had around 930 or so candidates on the ballot in 2020.
Right.
So that's exciting. Certainly, we have, I think, 100 and change that have already won elections. Either a spring general election, for instance, or will win tonight because it's an uncontested race.
Mm-hmm.
We have 9 states that have 30 or more union candidates on the ballot.
Oh my
so I think
God.
that puts it in perspective. And for example, Indiana has been running programs specifically for their union members and really putting a laser focus on it. And they fielded 17 union candidates, and this is something new for them. I was at a socially distant rally in Ohio a couple of weeks ago with, it was an interesting group because we turned and looked at each other, and it was all women, and it was all local candidates that, were running up and down the ballot for state representative, for state house. And there was an Ohio Nurses Association member who was running for, I think it was state house, a teacher from the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers running, I think is running for Congress. So, I mean, we have union member candidates at all levels of government that are running, and I think historic numbers of women, people of color, running for these offices. And as Elise will tell you, you know, with the activities we've been doing around getting union women to run, we have put a special focus on, you know, especially this year, coming off the Women's March and other uprisings, women are really leading this movement, and they're running for office in record numbers.
Well, let me not hog, and I know you don't have a whole lot of time, so let me open it up to some of my colleagues. Evan, did you have a question? Was that okay? Go ahead.
Liz, thanks for joining us. And hopefully Biden's going to win. Hopefully we're going to take the Senate and the House. That's a big hope. Obviously, it may be a struggle for months to get there. But with that assumption in mind, how do we keep pushing the Democrats to support labor and have more influence than, say, Wall Street and even the neoconservatives?
Well, that is going to be up to us. We say it all the time, right? That we can't let them off the hook. And Joe Biden's campaign has already shown us that he takes the labor movement extremely serious, because even, you know, we don't want to focus too much on post-election yet, but the signs are really hopeful and positive that he is listening to us. He's got labor people in mind for key positions in the new cabinet. And so I think it will be, again, we've got to be the ones to turn up the heat, turn up the pressure, make sure our grassroots machine does not stop after Election Day, and that we continue to engage our members on the issues. That's always the tough pivot point, right? That we get them fired up for the election and politics. And then sometimes it drops off when we talk about legislating or policy. So I think that's a challenge for us as a labor movement, is to make sure that in this new administration, right, the first thing we want to see out of the gate is passage of the PRO Act. And, you know, to make sure that, you know, working people, as we know, who have been out in the streets, who've been on the front lines of this pandemic, who have had enough of this economy not working for them, that those organic movements that have been on fire on the, you know, front lines of these protests can translate into union membership by fixing our labor laws. As you know, right? They are broken.
Yes, please.
So passing the PRO Act out of the gate, and Biden has and Kamala have said, yes, this is a top priority. Certainly the HEROES Act being stalled out, you know, on the Hill and the Senate, and getting this pandemic under control will be the first order of business, and having a plan. What a concept, right? And getting all of the things that we had front and center in the HEROES Act, you know, unemployment insurance extensions, healthcare support, investments in state and local governments and schools, and our postal service, even our multi-employer pensions had relief in the HEROES Act. So getting all of that, you know, ready for this next administration right out of the gate will be up to us.
And just quickly to follow up, the Democrats have not had a jobs program in most of my lifetime. And when the private sector is not working, how about we go to the Federal Reserve, we issue credit, build infrastructure, hire union wage jobs, rebuild the entire country, and then we bring in half of union, as I understand it, at least the rank and file is pro-Trump. They've been conned. So trying to bring them in, maybe it's wrong, and hopefully it's wrong.
I think those numbers are high, but go on.
but to show that they are getting something from a Biden administration that they didn't get from an anti-labor Trump administration. That's just my piece.
No, I think that's excellent. And how long have we been hearing about investing in infrastructure? And even Trump made empty promises there, didn't deliver. Biden is already pursuing plans to make sure that infrastructure is at the top of his list. And I'm talking roads and bridges and broadband and energy infrastructure. But I've also been talking about the care economy as infrastructure, because we've seen front and center in this crisis the impact on caregiving. You know, parents that have had to turn their kitchen tables into a classroom while trying to work. You know, childcare facilities that have had to lay people off, and we know that women and people of color are disproportionately working in the care sector, and not only for young people, but our elderly, disabled. So I think it's an often neglected an invisible part of our infrastructure in the country that we need to, invest in as well. And the Biden administration will invest in that because he's already been talking about it on the campaign trail.
Alan?
Yeah, Liz, thank you so much for joining us. I guess going back to what you were talking about, turning up the heat for grassroots organizing and for getting more women to run for office, did you see like an uptick in the urgency after 2016? And do you foresee if Biden wins tonight, moving forward, a kind of like decrease in that energy? And if so, like what are your plans to keep that moving, tomorrow, January, moving forward?
Wow, thank you for that question. I absolutely have seen throughout this campaign, we've been seeing it build, since Trump was elected. More women running, certainly the labor movement being seen more as a women's organization because we are half the workforce and we will be officially half the labor movement by 2023, I believe. So it's about time that we, put ourselves forward and show that the labor movement is a movement for working women. And so that has been building. And the more women we get at the table, elected into those positions, the more the issues that women care about become front and center. And we talk about that in the labor movement as well as elected office. So we will definitely be continuing our work to engage women within our labor movement, encourage them to run for union office, encourage them to run for office at all levels of government. And we think that that will be something we look forward to and continue to invest in. And I see it as only growing. I don't know about you.
So Liz, I want to, I love to talk about labor film.
Oh yeah.
And just before you, we had Danny Schuler from the Stand movie, which is coming up. And folks may not necessarily remember that Liz comes out of the IBW. In fact, when Danny previewed it for us, I think it was just a year ago. That seems like a million years ago, but it was actually at your screening room in the basement of the lower level, where the amazing IBW museum is, which we have every year at the Labor Film Festival. But IBW was one of the early investors in that film, and we were kind of teasing Danny about what that pitch must have been like. Right, he had a lot of really wonderful things to say about Lonnie and about the IBW really getting why it was important to invest in labor culture. But I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that because I know this is near and dear to your heart as well.
Absolutely. And Chris, I mean, you and I are, simpatico on this. And we often, unfortunately, see the arts, sometimes people see it as a last priority, when in fact, it can be one of the most potent tools for organizing. Time and time again, I see some of the most creative and powerful rallies and events always tie together some kind of cultural element, whether it's film, music, theater. And often I will say young people get it. I remember one of the coolest events I went to was the minimum wage event in San Jose a few years back, where young workers in the labor movement combined forces with San Jose State. And I think it was during Halloween, they did a Walk of the Living Dead kind of event, and it got local news and everybody dressed up, and most labor leaders would be like, what, you're doing what? But it caught fire because people wanted to be a part of it. It was symbolic because of the minimum wage and the plight of working people in the Bay Area, the homelessness, the inability to make a decent living. And they were able to get the community involved, not just the labor movement. So I think there's so many great examples of how we tell these powerful stories, either through film, theater, song. And so I wish we would do more of it. And, you always have me on speed dial for any kind of support and event that we can do to lift that up, for sure.
The last thing, and this is just something that's close to all of us as the network, is that, the IBW, of course, has a fabulous media department. I've stolen lots of ideas from them. The AFL now has a great media department. Was one of the international level to have a podcast. And I just wanted to get your thoughts. These are just some of the more than 70 labor radio shows and podcasts that are part of this nascent network. And, this is the first national broadcast that we've done, but this is something I know that you've been really visionary about. And I'm just thinking, whatever happens tonight, it's clear that going forward to have our own platforms is really critical. And I just want to sort of get your thoughts on that to this group.
Well, it is so exciting too, because we can actually speak directly to audiences we normally wouldn't be able to reach through other means. And, for years we've lamented about the cost of doing business in having your own television station or your own, radio or traditional broadcast channels. And I think using podcasts and other forms of media just give us a direct channel to the people we're trying to reach. And I would love to learn more from you, because we have done quite a battery of approaches over the years. What works, what doesn't work, where we should be investing resources, and really looking at, again, creative ways to knit this together, because we do have a lot of people doing podcasts out there. Are we doing the best we can do to be coordinating our messages and aligning with each other and lifting each other's work up, and and being more interconnected, because we know that solidarity is our mantra, right? So shouldn't we be actually looking at this more holistically, or is it 1,000 flowers bloom? I mean, I don't know if anyone's really done that kind of analysis to see what the most effective approach is.
Well, let's go to the he hates this, but we're going to go to the other Washington out there in Washington State, one of our colleagues out there. Harold, why don't you go ahead? I think you're on mute, Harold. He's an actor. He should know this.
And we're 8 months into Zoom, right?
No, we're having a little technical problem with his with your audio there. But I'll follow up. One of the things while he's working on that, one of the things, and listen, you have me on speed dial. We are very happy. We meet every week, and we'd love to have you, and we can have a nuts and bolts conversation. But we have 73 shows across the country. And I'm lucky because I know so many here in DC, that I know either if I don't know them, I know who to talk to get to folks. But for the Jacob Morrison, who if we can make folks available to the Jacobs and the Jeans and the Jeremies,
Right.
who are working, frankly, with extremely limited resources. And I don't want to speak for you guys. You guys should speak for yourselves. But I think that's one of the things we've talked about on our weekly meetings, is that those kind of things would be helpful.
Yes, and lifting up just this incredible talent and dedication, and you keep us all going and keep feeding the audience, right? Because we talk so much about how the labor movement isn't recognized and appreciated as much as it could be for the work sometimes just doesn't get noticed. And part of that is using our channels more effectively, and folks like yourself to lift up that work. I talk a lot about disaster relief, for example, and community services work. Who is the first to respond during a hurricane or a tornado or a flood? It's the labor movement, right? We're running in, not only in our work as first responders, but also with the charitable efforts that we do, raising money and rebuilding people's homes and doing food drives. We've done it during the pandemic, often thanklessly, and serving the community without being asked or without really, looking to be recognized. We just do the work. But I think if more people knew about that, they would have a much more favorable opinion of the labor movement. Although we are, our Gallup approval rating has gone up dramatically.
I know.
Years.
Yes,
So,
it has.
yeah.
Harold, I think, there he is. All right, wonderful. Go ahead, Harold.
Hi, Liz. So I know you have a connection to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
So you understand the culture that we have out here, which is going to be very different than the culture in Jacob's area, which is going to be very different than the culture in Chris's area or Jeremy's or Gene. So one of the things that we look at here in the network is what is it that we can bring from our different areas that makes sense in our region? Something that we've been really successful with in the Southwest Washington Central Labor Council with our podcast, Working to Live in Southwest Washington, is we've had a decided community focus. It's definitely produced by labor, and most of the people on the show are union members, but we're talking about general community issues. So it's the voice of labor on things like online schooling, how to deal with political intimidation in public, that sort of thing. So I wonder if there is a broad sense that the AFL-CIO can give to people who are thinking about starting their own podcast, their own radio show, about how they can speak to their communities from a labor perspective, but that still resonates in their community.
Wow, that is, I think, a fascinating thought as to what could we be doing at the National AFL-CIO to plug into that and be of use there. And, is it some kind of user's guide, or is there some kind of toolkit that we could collaborate with you on to encourage more people to get in this game, right? Because communication really is where it's at, and we need to take advantage of it. So I would love to see, what we could work together on.
Yeah, I think that would be tremendous.
I love this idea, though, of tailoring it because each community is different. In Southwest Washington, I am familiar with because I grew up in Portland. And, just thinking about how, there is a common thread, though, of the issues that we all care about, but then being able to link back to the community and be, connected to the community issues that people in your local area care about.
I think that's one thing we found as our general shows have talked to each other in our weekly meetings. There are things specific to Texas, Louisville, Huntsville, Alabama, that are going to be within those communities. But like you said, there are overall threads. So I think if we could work together on some kind of guidance like that to bring up these new communicators within the labor movement, I think that it could really flourish.
I love it. I'm looking at the comments, and I think somebody just posted that John Hickenlooper that's been called.
Woohoo! Oh, that's
Wow.
good news. Yeah. Woohoo! I think Jeremy.
And I'm so anxious to hear some of the races. Has anybody got any other new information that's been coming through? I've not been paying attention to my phone here, but
me neither. That's actually, we have somebody who's supposed to. Alan is doing that. Alan, check on that. In the meantime, I think Jeremy had a question, and then Liz, you have been very generous with your time. And you're gonna tag team with Elise. That's gonna work well.
Excellent. And yeah, I'm gonna jump after this question, but before I got on, they had just announced in Georgia. Did you hear about the pipe that burst?
No, tell us.
Yes. Fulton County, which I guess has a part of Atlanta, which is going to be an area for Biden. They had gotten only 87,000 votes into their count, and a pipe burst, which now they say will delay the results of that key county for 1 to 2 days.
Wow.
So they may not be able to call Georgia at all without the results of this county because of a pipe bursting. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, does anyone know a union plumber?
Union plumber, thank you. I got one.
Right.
Liz, I think you can help out here. You can make a phone call. All right, one last question from Jeremy, and then,
it wasn't so much a question. I just wanted to piggyback off of something Liz had said earlier about how, like, when big things happen, like hurricanes and floods and stuff, it's unions that jump into action. And something that we've been doing, not like at an international level and at a local level with my local. Sorry, Liz, I'm Jeremy Waugh from Sheet Metal Workers Local 110 in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the host of the Break Time Breakdown. we've been making a very conscious effort to, we discovered that even though we're big, loud construction workers, we're pretty humble when it comes to things that we do. We don't like to talk about our skills and the stuff that we do. So we're making a very conscious effort to be a little less humble about when we jump into action, because we want people to see that we're doing things, and we want them to know that we exist, because if we no longer exist, some of this help that they were getting that they didn't realize they were getting goes away. So we want them to see that, you know, that like they might not know what a sheet metal worker does or what SMART is, but if they keep seeing these SMART Army t-shirts and stuff like that, every time something's being done in the community, they'll start to link us to a very positive message.
It is so perfectly put. So I'm glad you're being less humble. Get it out there, and like you said, the branding and connecting the union, the colors and the, you know, the alphabet soup that we wear that doesn't make sense to anybody else, but if they see it consistently and there's like, hey, wait a second, my little league coach keeps, you know, he's part of this thing called SMART, or, you know, this person who responded and showed up and wired this person's home that had just gone through a fire, or, you know, so I could not agree more. And I think that will be our charge going forward, especially as the Gallup poll numbers are climbing. We should be out and proud, right? That we're union members. We're not in hiding, and make it known. So good work.
Liz Schuler, thank you
so everyone.
Much.
I am so grateful for your platform, for the work you do, your passion, you know, we're all being very tenacious in these times, because no matter what, we will not give up. We will be there. That is the one thing that is ever present, is the labor movement. Yes. So well done.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Keep up the fight.
Take care. Thanks.
Take care. Liz Schuler, Secretary Treasurer of the AFL-CIO.